Hey, this is Meridith Elliott Powell, and once again, here we are, 9 a.m. Eastern on Saturday morning. It is time to discuss our favorite subject, sales. I'm hanging out with my co-host this morning, Mark Hunter. How are you, Mark?
I'm doing great. Looking forward to it. We always have a good time on Saturday mornings for about, 22, 25, 28 minutes, however long we decide to go.
Yeah. So you have had a big week. Mark has been cooking lobsters with his grandson and kind of celebrating the fact that talk about a good return on investment. You did a favor for a speaker friend of ours and got some live lobsters in it.
Yeah, I certainly wasn't expecting it, but what a neat little surprise. So yeah, it was great. So anyway,
all right, we've got a big show this morning. We're going to talk about coaching, whether you need a coach, what a coach can do, how do you find the right coach, and so. Watch this quick video and we will be right back.
Prospect with integrity, we will get customers who have integrity. Integrity is the foundation from which everything is built on.
You better understand value. But at the end of the day, sales is a relationship business. It is a people business. It is an emotional business.
This is Sales Logic.
All right, welcome again to the Sales Logic podcast, the show where we dive into the strategies, discuss the steps, everything that you need to know to sell more effectively in today's uncertain marketplace. And this is the way the show works. We come to you every Saturday morning for 20, 25 minutes, and we cover a range of areas of focus. We always have a topic. We got a good one on the books today. We start off with a question from you, the audience. So if you ever want to get involved with Sales Logic, just go to saleslogicpodcast.com, just saleslogicpodcast.com. Put your question in there or just put it out there on social media, hashtag Sales Logic. We recommend a book. And last but not least, we do a lightning round. So you can walk away from steps and strategies that you can put into place immediately. Don't wait till Monday. You can do it this morning when you start selling. So, Mark, what is on tap before today?
I can't believe we do all that in about 25 minutes. So anyway, hey, what is on tap today? We're going to be talking about are sales coaches effective? That's the topic. And we got a great question. We got a great book and a lightning round. So let's jump into the question. The question comes from Tony from Pasadena. He asks, how do I know if a sales coach is any good? Because you and I both do coaching. So, hey, you know what? I think we can speak from this.
Yeah. Well, I think number one is the first thing to realize is if your coach is good or isn't good, is you have to realize, are you coachable? Because as a coach can be phenomenal, a coach can be unbelievable. But if you are not ready to be coached, your coach isn't going to be any good, or at least isn't going to be effective for you. So that's the place that you need to start, is to think about, do I really want to be coached? Am I willing to do things differently? Am I willing to dig deep? Am I willing to analyze what I'm doing well, what I'm not doing well? So figure out first if you're coachable.
See, and that really comes back to this whole thing that people think, well, if I just get this app or if I just get this software program up, I'm going to be suddenly magnificent. It's the same thing with coaches. I mean, you really have to do, you can get a coach, but it's like the gym membership. Unless you really put into play what the coach is recommending to you, it's not going to happen. And one of the things that I always look for is, does the coach line up with a value system similar to yours? If the coach doesn't line up with a value system similar to yours, then don't get that coach. You got to find somebody else. Yeah. And it's so important because the coach really becomes an extension of you. And if you think about a parent-child relationship, I hate to say it, but kind of a coach and a coachee is kind of the same thing. It's the same thing. And you have to see, does that coach model the behavior? Now, I'm not saying, okay, does that coach have to be the superstar? Because here's what's very interesting. Michael Jordan, phenomenal basketball player. He was a terrible coach. Mm-hmm. Bird Larry Bird, excellent basketball player. Again, lousy coach. So it isn't always necessarily that top 1% is the best coach, but the best coaches have the ability to communicate to you and lift you to a higher level by exposing for you where your weaknesses are.
Yeah, I would add to that. It's a funny balance, because absolutely, just because somebody is really good at sales doesn't mean that they're going to be a good sales coach. In fact, more often than not, they're probably not. At the same time, one of the biggest challenges you face with coaches or with consultants is they aren't successful in and of themselves. And you don't want to choose a coach who isn't successful in two areas. Number one is they have to run a strong sales pipeline themselves. They have to be busy. I mean, Mark, I know something people give you and I a hard time about all the time is that we're so busy. I mean, running 100 miles an hour. But I always say to people, part of what I do is sales and business growth coaching. Would you really want to come to a sales and business growth coach who didn't have a full pipeline, who didn't have a full book? The other thing is, how successful are their clients? Because a good sales coach will fire a client who isn't doing the work. I always say that my reputation is on my clients. So the moment that I notice that somebody isn't willing to do the work, and it's not a negative, it's just you're not in the space to dive in and to do the work. I mean, I've had to quit coaches before because they were phenomenal, but I wasn't where I needed to be in order to implement what needs to be done. So you need to look at how well run their business is and how successful their clients are.
And in that regard, it's an aspirational approach. In other words, you're looking at that coach and saying, that coach is able to achieve this. This coach has been able to do this in other people. I'm looking for that coach to do that for me. So you have to have that aspirational attitude. And here's the whole thing. What you don't want to hire a coach to do is to confirm what you're already doing. You're hiring a coach to get you uncomfortable. If all the coach does is give you attaboys and say you're doing everything great, forget it. You have the wrong coach. I love what Larry is saying is the coach practitioner of what they are coaching. Yes, this is why I think, I'm not in a position to take on as many people who want to be coached by me as possible because I'm busy doing it myself. Mm-hmm. And again, the good coaches are also very selective at who they take. That's one of the things that I find. If you reach out to a coach and they say, "Oh, sure, just give me your credit card or just send me money," and you're, because it's got to be a two-way street.
Yeah, I also love what Larry's saying here too. Does your coach have a coach? Absolutely. It's the very first thing that I always tell my clients for two reasons. Number one is because a good coach wants you to be vulnerable. So I always let them know that I work with a coach. I mean, it's that a sign of getting a coach is not that anything is wrong with your sales process or your business. In fact, it's the antithesis. It's just you recognizing it could be better. And I always tell people that it's so valuable to have outside input and that I use a coach in my own business. I have people that I work with to help me develop and grow my business. Such a great point. And Adam's got a great comment here. Being coachable and having a growth mindset are key ingredients before being coached, mentored, or even being inspired. Absolutely, Adam. Again, as great as a coach can be, at the end of the day, you have to be there. My favorite people to coach, my target market, my ideal prospect, is I love really successful people who are at the top of their game, but they know there's something more. They could take it to another level. And that's what you're talking about with a growth mindset. It's kind of funny. Somebody said to me the other day, why is it always the people sitting in the front seat or always the people taking notes or always the people signing up for training that technically don't need it, right? Like they're the people that are already successful, but they are the ones who are saying, wow, I've reached the top of my game, but could there be something more?
I go back to Tom Brady. I mean, he has like 8 different coaches beyond the coaches of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But he has like 8 different coaches for each different element. I coach several people who have multiple coaches. And I'm not threatened by that. I love that. In fact, and it's funny, is these people who I coach, promote, they are top performers. They are absolutely top performers. And that's what I find so interesting. The top performers are the ones who say, I want to be coached because I know I can get to the next level. That is what's really, really special. And you know, as we kind of pivot to the the topic, are sales coaches effective? Here's the whole thing. If you've been working with a coach and the coach can't demonstrate and can't see, and you can't see discernible difference in what you're doing, then why are you sticking with the coach? I mean, it's something I ask people I coach all the time. Okay, so look back 6 months prior. Where are you at? What is doing now? And what are you? I mean, I call that out with people who I coach on a regular basis, because I want them to hold me. See, top coaches are willing to be held accountable.
Absolutely.
They are not just in it for taking the money. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the other thing is to know that your coach is a sales coach effective. Again, sales coach effective is part the coach and part you. But the other is, I always look for somebody who has a process and has a system. We're going to work something. We're going to be focused on a system to get me to an outcome. The second is, while the coachee always gets to determine what's going to be talked about in that coaching session, you want to be working with a coach who's holding you accountable to the ultimate goal that you set at the beginning, which is another key thing that you need to do. Begin with the end in mind, as Stephen Covey said. That first session really needs to focus on, take me out a year from now, take me out 6 months from now. Where do you want to be, and what do we want to be different? And so when you work one-on-one with somebody, as both Mark and I often do, Larry does as well, is that person is definitely going to say, maybe today I want to talk about a tough client or something, but they're always bringing you back to the goal. How is what you're doing moving you closer to the goal or moving you further away from the goal, so that you're staying focused, you're staying on track, and it isn't just loose. Far too often I hear, not only with sales coaches, but with a lot of coaches, that the sessions are just too loose. There's not enough structure around them. So I feel like I'm making progress.
Well, that brings up two very interesting points. That initial session with the coach. If the coach isn't taking time to say, hey, tell me about where you're coming from. Tell me about your baseline. Tell me about your background. If they're not, they just come in, okay, here's the 10-step or the 12-step process, and they're just go, hold it. That's not the right coach for you, because the coach has to understand what is your foundation built on, what I call it, what's your baseline. And then, like you said, you're right, you're building out, what are those steps that you're going to get to? And the coach that comes into every call with absolutely no agenda, no process, could you imagine? We'll go back to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Super Bowl champions. Could you imagine them starting a practice and the coach going, well, what do you guys want to work on today? No, they have a very defined process. And this is what's absolutely key when it comes to coaching, because if all you're doing is paying for somebody to listen to you, no, you haven't hired a coach, you've hired a therapist. And that's a completely different conversation, because if all you're doing is hiring a therapist, then you know what? It's time for you to get out of sales. It's time for you to go into some other job. The coach is designed to take you to the next level. And this is the other thing. When you're hiring a coach, you want to ask the coach, what are the steps that you're going to take me through? Now, you're not asking them to give away the secret sauce, but what do you see as the goals? What do you see as the expectations? And what's the general roadmap that we're going to be following to get us there? So that you, as the coachee, can understand, okay, I see this is the path we're going to be going down. Yeah. This is, I love Diane's comment. There are both buying and selling styles. A good salesperson needs to understand both. Yes. And the coach needs to understand it. And this comes back to the value system, the basic underlying sales chemistry that the coach brings, because you are selecting a coach as much off of their personality and their intellect as you are off of their skill set. There are some people that might argue otherwise. I don't buy that because, again, you can have unbelievable skills, but if you're a jerk, you're still a jerk. I didn't mean that about anybody who is listening to the show.
I love where you went with this, Diane, because you were just one step ahead of me. I was just about to bring this up. I think a really good coach has this ability to deal with both the process, but also can get underneath. I know sometimes when I'm coaching people, I might have a little bit of imposter syndrome going on. I might have somebody who is fear-based. I might have somebody who is really struggling to try to make some of the shifts and the changes, maybe from in-person to virtual selling. That it isn't just the nuts and bolts of sales. It's getting up under what is that person feeling and what are they going through? I'm old enough that we used to believe that when you came to work, it was just about what was going on in work, and what was happening in your personal life was your personal life. And now it really is a blend of all those things. So I see that a good coach really seeks first to understand, which goes to what Jack Hubbard, one of the best sales coaches out there, is saying. It's basically an ask then tell approach. Absolutely. A really good coach is asking amazing to dig deep and to answer those questions. But I love that he put in a tell approach. There's so much controversy in the coaching world whether a coach should ever give an answer. I kind of fall into the category that after we've dug enough, that if there's something somebody needs, we'll basically dive in with that. And a non-negotiable action plan. A good coach will fire you if you're not doing the work.
There's something so much of what he just said there, Jack, and it really comes down to a good coach is going to help you get in a position where you can coach yourself. In other words, this comes back to the questions. When I'm coaching somebody, I'm spending more time asking them questions. I'm challenging them. I'm challenging their thinking, because I want them to get their thought process. I want them to get their actions. I want them to get their mindset to that point to where they're sitting there saying, yeah, I can figure this, because I love it. And I've had this with several people who I coach. Well, a lot of people I've coached with. We may start off with weekly sessions, and then we migrate to monthly sessions. And we migrate to monthly sessions because, you know what? I don't need to be with them every week. We may stay in touch by email and so forth, but I don't need to be, because they're coaching themselves. And I love it. And I'm sure you get this note back too, where somebody who you're coaching, or maybe you had been coaching, they said, you know what, I had this problem and here's how I work through it. And you go, yeah, they did it. They did absolutely fantastic. They reached the conclusion, the solution on their own without reaching out to me. They go, you know what, that's a level of satisfaction. That is a real high level.
That is so true. It's funny. I was thinking about that. I've got a coach in tennis because I need so much flipping help. And I lost a tennis match the other day, and I came home. I was really pretty happy. And my husband said, "You're awful happy for somebody who lost a tennis match." And I said, "Well, I think Lawson is a phenomenal coach because I was able to process everything I did wrong. I caught myself halfway through the match and I was able to course correct. It wasn't enough to bring it back, but it was enough that I could tell I was making progress." And I think you're making such a great point about a coach there, is that they're getting you to a point where you're ultimately going to free yourself, that you understand the system, you understand the process, so that you can truly become your own coach. And there is no better coach out there other than you. I really believe that. If you can learn to analyze your own behaviors. Our friend Larry Levine's got another great question here, is the way he starts off every coaching session. As a result of our time together, what 3 outcomes would you like to see happen? That is focus, focus, focus.
And yet, you know what's funny? It's amazing the number of people who have come to me, and they've come to me from some other coach, and they said that the previous coach they have never asked anything about themselves, asked anything about themselves, and never shared. And this is the other thing, is the coach sharing from first person experience. This again is so key, because again, there are coaches out there who coach purely from the textbook. And wow, I think that's a big mistake, because emotionally they can't feel where that person's coming. But when they can share from first person, now I'm not talking, first person bankruptcy. Well, I don't know, maybe that could, I don't know, who knows? Again, depending on what you're looking for, this is going down a side path. But because there's a level of empathy that person has to understand just before they kick your butt. And
That
then
is
they
such a
understand,
great point.
because Lou Holtz was asked one time, great college football coach, was asked, how do you motivate 150 football players? He says, you motivate them 150 different ways. And see, the great coach understands it's not the cookie cutter solution that coach has used for every person they've coached. No, it's tailored to that individual person, because that's going to allow them to achieve their greatest outcome.
Oh, great. Okay. So Mark, you just hit such a great point. I want everybody who's been there to put a been there in the chat. Have you been coached in corporate America by somebody who can't even remember the last time they were in the field? Nothing worse than that, than some coach you've got yelling at you because you're not hitting your sales goals. And the last time they were in front of a customer was 15 years ago. You are making such a great point there. If you are a coach within a corporate environment and you've been elevated to the point that you coach people, but you're not required to be client facing, you better get client facing, because you cannot understand what the people you are coaching are going through unless you are feeling it right with them. And that is probably one of the biggest mistakes I see coaches make. If you haven't lost a deal, if you haven't had a customer go dark on you, if you haven't been battered on price, if you haven't had so many of the pain points that your that your coachees are feeling, you're not able to coach them, because when you did it 20 years ago, it's different than what they're facing now.
Oh, without a doubt. Hey, wow, time is moving along here. We got to jump.
This is a great topic.
This is a great topic, and I think because we come at it from a lot of experience. The book today, Sales Management Simplified by Mike Weinberg. He's written 3 great books. I love Sales Management Simplified because he does really simplify sales management. And one of the things that he talks about in there is how the sales manager has to get in the trenches. And this is what the coach has to be willing to get in the trenches. You can't be a spreadsheet jockey. He and I both use the line spreadsheet jockey, which is what so many managers, so many coaches do. But Sales Management Simplified is an absolutely terrific book by Mike Weinberg. So anyway, hey, I don't know if you want to add some comments. Oh, and by the way, Mike has an awesome coach for golf. I'm just saying.
Just in case I need that too.
Yeah.
I just want to add that anything by Mike Weinberg is really good. This is an excellent book, but mostly it's an excellent book because the title says it all. It is simplified. If you want a simple, down-to-earth approach to really leading a sales team, Mike really nails it in this book.
Yeah, and he's a genuine nice guy.
He is a genuine guy. Somebody who walks their walk, is
right
in the trenches, is feeling everything you're feeling. Just a really good guy, but it's a great book.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, lightning round. Are you ready? Top strategies to maximize your time with a coach.
Number one, always have a plan and have an agenda. Come to every single sales coaching session prepared about what you want to talk about.
You just stole my number one. Number two, make sure you do your homework. In other words, you always make sure that between each session, you're doing the steps that you've agreed to and you're demonstrating results.
Most coaches will allow you to email them or call them between sessions. The moment that they go on your payroll, use them. Anytime you have a question, reach out and ask.
Know that the coach is doing their job, but no, it's you're the one that's doing your job. You have to own the outcome. You have to own the results. Don't sit there and pass blame on your coach.
Check your ego at the door. You're there to learn. You're not there to be right. So don't get defensive. Even if you don't agree with what the coach is asking you about or talking to you about, be open-minded and leave your ego at the door.
And I'll add to that, be vulnerable, expose yourself. Don't sugarcoat things, go right down to the ugly and let it all hang out. I've had people on the phone who have been crying, and you know what? Those have been some of the best sessions ever.
Yeah. Most coaching sessions are virtual now. That's one thing that's not really going that much back into person. So be present. Don't multitask. Years ago, I was in an exercise class and I was in the back of the room and I was cheating. And my girlfriend said that the teacher's going to yell at you. And the teacher overheard her saying something to me. And the teacher said to me, she said in front of the whole class, she said, look, I'm not watching you people. It's your time. It's your hour. You paid me to be here. If you don't want to get in shape, I don't care. It's the same thing with a coaching session. It's your time. Don't be distracted. Pay attention. Go in, lean into it.
Come to each session and challenge your coach. Push them to a higher level themselves. Challenge them with questions. Because remember, you're paying for them. So you want to get as much out of them as possible. But remember, you're not challenging them to make them feel uncomfortable. No, you're challenging them because you want them to ultimately challenge you.
All right, I'll give you one more and you give us one more. The last one is don't be afraid to walk away. If it's not working for you, if A, you're not ready to do the work, B, this coach isn't the right fit, don't be afraid to walk away. As much as it is a skill set, Mark said this before, it's a personality fit. And you've got to be comfortable in that situation. So if it isn't effective for you, move on.
Make sure your mindset is in the right place, that you come into each session not defensive, but you come in offensive because you want to learn. So with that, let's go ahead and close down the show. Thank you for listening to Sales Logic this week. If you like what you hear, hey, subscribe, rate, and review the show in your favorite podcast app. If something we've said has earned you a single dollar, consider telling a friend about our show. It's how we grow to help you grow. I'm Mark Hunter.
And I'm Meridith Elliott Powell.
Remember, when you sell with confidence and integrity,
uncertainty suddenly becomes your competitive advantage.
And the sale becomes logical.
All right. I want to close out here with Adam's comment. He is so right. The world has changed. Technology has changed. Access to information has changed. Pretty much everything. Customer habits and expectations have changed. So the sales rep must evolve and the sales coach needs to stay ahead of those trends. Such a great point, Adam. You've got to have somebody who is moving ahead of you. Join us right here next week. Don't forget, it's not too late to join our mastermind. Go to saleslogicpodcast.com. Go there and submit your questions as well. We'll see you right here next week, 9 a.m. Eastern, for another episode and another great conversation. We love our everybody jumping in and giving their comments. So it makes the show so much more fun. Have an awesome weekend and we'll see you next week.